Good evening, everyone. We might have a few more people to jump on. We had 111 that is registered. Not everybody usually can make it at that time, but we've already got a good group that has joined us here on this Wednesday, November 12th. My name is Eric Danielson with the Iowa College Access Network, and I'll be the one to go through with you this FAFSA step-by-step program with you, showing screenshots and letting you know exactly what to expect when filling out the FAFSA form. One of the first things that I wanted to mention as we're going through this preview process with you, first of all, that we've got many partners that are involved with this event, and we appreciate that. I work for the Iowa College Access Network. We're a nonprofit organization that helps students and families through this process, but the Department of Education Bureau of Iowa College Aid, as well as IASFA, the Iowa Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, is also a partner of this event tonight as well. And in fact, we've got a few of those IASFA members that are actually taking part in this program tonight and answering questions for you on the chat box. So here are our volunteers that we have that are going to be on the chat box with you that work in the financial aid offices at these universities and colleges, and really appreciate them being on there tonight. So if you have a question as I go through this form with you, please ask it into the chat box, and one of our FAFSA step-by-step financial aid experts will answer the questions for you. Just to kind of give a practice right now, for those of you that are on here, in the chat box, would you please go ahead and list where you're at? If you're with the high school, the city, but go ahead, please, attendees, and in the chat box, just want to get an idea of where everybody's at and kind of practice and putting that into the chat box right now. So please list where you're at. Waukee North. I was just at Waukee Northwest actually last night. West Des Moines, Bettendorf, Logan. Even in the first couple, we've already got the eastern side and western side. PV, Sloan, Cedar Rapids, Adel, Waukee Northwest again. Nashua, Pleasant Valley. All right. West Delaware, West Des Moines. Excellent. Sheffield up there. Okay. Great. Quite a few. Davenport. Quite a few from Waukee, which is awesome. Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. That just, again, gives us a little bit of an idea. It looks like we've got people all over the state of Iowa that is attending tonight, and we hope you find it valuable information for you in going through this FAFSA process, which did change a couple of years ago. There were some, we'll just call them struggles in that first year with some of the changeovers, but the nice thing is the FAFSA started this year on time on October 1st. And it has really actually been working very well this 27-26 year. Now, this is our number at ICAN, where I work, our website and phone number. If after tonight, if you would like to make an appointment with us, either by Zoom or in one of our locations throughout the state of Iowa, you can go online or give us a call to set up an appointment to do that. At least we'll give you an idea tonight on kind of what to do and what to expect. But if there are things you're not sure about or want somebody to help you through this process, that is something that we can do. So give us a call or go online to set up an appointment. Now, before I get, and again, as you have questions, please put them in the chat box for our experts, and they'll answer them for you as we go along. One of the first things that I wanted to start with in going through this program with you is about the studentaid.gov account. This is the account that everyone is going to need an account to access the form. And when we say everyone, we're saying all contributors on a student's FAFSA form. If a student is a dependent student, which is going to be our example tonight, then that student is going to need an account, and then parents are going to need an account as well. And which parents are going to need an account? It depends on what parent information is going to need to be, or which parents need to be included on the account. And in just a second, I'm going to go over that a little bit more with you. But where you go to set up an account is studentaid.gov. Now, the past couple of years, you had to do it 1 or 3 days in advance in getting ready so that your information was verified with the Social Security Administration. That's no longer the case now. You can create an account right away. It's going to be verified right away. If it's not verified and something's wrong, it'll let you know that and try to make corrections right away with that account too. So studentaid.gov is where you're going to go, not only to create an account, but that's where you're going to go to actually fill out the FAFSA form too. And these accounts, I should mention, It won't just be if you're a high school senior family and getting them for the first time. You'll actually reuse them each year that a student attends college. You're going to have to do a new form with new tax information. You're going to reuse these accounts. If you're a parent that already has a studentaid.gov account, whether you had went to back to college in the last 10 years or you had another son or daughter who's already been in school and you created an account, you won't need a new one. You'll keep the same account, but each student is going to need to have their own studentaid.gov account. So again, tonight, what we're going to be talking about in our example is a dependent student that is going to fill out their section and then invite a parent to complete the parent part. This is like the third year where actually the FAFSA has been broken up into different sections, student doing their section and a parent doing their section instead of one of long form. So we're going to go through the example as if the student's going to begin the form and then invite a parent in, and then a parent ended up completing their part. So again, questions that you have, put them in the chat box, but I'm going to try to stay succinct here and keep going through this form with you as if we were what it would look like to fill it out. Now, again, studentaid.gov is the page to go to. When you go to that page, you may see something that looks a little bit different now, but basically you would start a 2627 form, first time filling it out. If you had already started it before, you can go back in to an existing form on there. There would also be kind of an activity part of this where you can click onto a form that you might have already started. But if you're just starting brand new, which I'm sure most of you are, it would be starting a 2627 FAFSA form. A FAFSA form for almost all colleges, which means it's for the fall of 26 and spring and summer of 27. Now, they're going to have you log in right away with that studentaid.gov account to be able to get in. So you will log in with either an email or a phone you can use. If you did have that verified with the studentaid.gov account, you at least have to have an email verified. And then we would also encourage you to do a cell number as well. So you can put either the email, phone, or the username that you created here. Once you click continue, then it's going to ask for the password. You enter in the password and hit login. And actually, then it's going to make you have a 6-digit code for two-step verification sent to either by text or by email, whichever one you prefer. Usually, if you've verified a cell number, getting the text is going to be a lot quicker. When you enter that in and get that verified, then you're going to be able to get into this page, actually starting the 2627 FAFSA form. Now, we are going to, technically, a student or parent could begin the form, but we are going to show the example as if the student was beginning it. So our student Alex here, they're going to put, I'm starting the FAFSA form as, and they're going to click on student and then hit continue. Now, there is some onboarding information that is on there. This is actually information we're going to go over, so I'm not going to discuss too much about this, but just wanted to let you know that there is 4 different things for onboarding. One is understanding a little bit about the FAFSA form and what is needed. There's also a section about contributors to the FAFSA form. Now, this is where I also did want to stop real quickly and show you this screen on here, who is going to be considered a parent on a dependent student's FAFSA form. First of all, if both the student's legal parents are married, we're going to answer questions about both parents. If those parents filed a joint tax return in 2024, which is the tax year that's being asked about on this 2627 FAFSA form, 2024 tax information, if they filed joint taxes, only one parent would need to get a studentaid.gov account. If the parents did not file joint taxes in 2024, then actually each of them would need to get a studentaid.gov account to be able to complete all the sections that they would need to do. In that scenario, it would be the student, the parent, one parent, and then the parent's spouse would have a small section as well if they did not file joint taxes together. Now, if both the legal parents are unmarried but living together, we again will answer questions about both parents. But this would be another example to where if the parents are unmarried, they would not have filed joint taxes in 2024. So each of those parents would need to get a studentaid.gov account. Now, if a parent is widowed or single, we're going to answer questions only about that parent. Unless the widowed parent would be remarried as of today that we're filling out the form, then we would need to answer questions about that parent and step parent. And we would need to have their 2024 tax information for each. If they are remarried as of today and did not file joint taxes in 2024, this would be another example to where both the parent and step parent would need to get a studentaid.gov account. Now, if the parents are divorced or separated, and these are what we get most of the questions on, when parents are divorced or separated, we answer questions about the parent that has provided the most financial support in the last year, last 12 months, from whenever you're filling out the form. So if that would be the mom and mom's not remarried, only mom's information is going to be included and only mom is going to need a studentaid.gov account. If though mom is remarried as of today, then we would need to answer questions about mom and step parent too. And if they did not file joint taxes in 2024, then we would need mom and the step parent to get studentaid.gov accounts. So if you have any questions on what parent would be or parents considered on a FAFSA form, please let us know within the chat box here tonight, as there's always some misconceptions on it. One thing that I want to point out to you is it does not matter when parents are divorced or separated. It does not matter which parent claimed a student on their income taxes. That actually has no bearing at all to which parent is going to be used on the FAFSA form. We are to look at the parent that has provided the most financial support in the last 12 months. If that is equal, one of the things we would say, is it truly equal, just to make sure, because we need to determine one parent over another. But if it is truly equal, then the parent that we're supposed to use is the one that has the highest income and assets as the tiebreaker there. So again, please ask any questions about that, but definitely wanted to mention this part, a big part of what parent information and which parents are going to need to be included on the FAFSA form, depending on the way your family is structured. All right. Number 3, onboarding, kind of what to expect. At the very, really, it could take 30 minutes or less if you have all the information. It's been going very, very well right now, and we're going to be going through that with you. And then what to expect after submitting the form. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the very end of this program. So once we get through these onboarding here, and usually when we're helping families, we skip to them very quickly. The first thing that it gets into is student identity information, the name, date of birth, social security number, email, mobile phone, and permanent address. If anything on this page, like the permanent address, would need to be changed, you actually have to update that back into the account settings in studentaid.gov. So really kind of getting out of this part and going back to the dashboard and then getting into the settings to make any corrections with any of this information that is on here. But if everything does look correct within the student identity information, then we're going to hit the continue button in the lower right-hand corner. And next question is going to get into student state of residence. Majority of you, that's going to be in Iowa. So you're going to put the state, but then also it's going to ask the date the student became a resident of Iowa. Now, if the student was born in Iowa and has moved out of the state since, really you enter in the month and year of their birth. Otherwise, enter in the date the student moved into Iowa. And if you ever struggle with that or not 100% sure, honestly, just try to come as close as possible that you can. Most time families will remember the year, but the month might be, well, it could have been February, March, trying to remember. Just go with what you think is the best, what you think is the right response on there. But I guess what I'm saying is that isn't a question, nothing to sweat about if you might be off by a month or two. After you hit continue, the next what it's going to ask is to provide consent and approval to actually have their federal tax information transferred over directly from the IRS. This is something that all contributors on the FAFSA form are going to need to hit approval on. Even if the student didn't file taxes in 2024, they're going to need to have to hit the approval button on that. So we want every contributor to do that when they're asked. You see that on the second page on this slide in the lower right-hand corner where they're going to hit approve. After they do that, then you're going to see this coming up, trying to transfer that information over. And what we're hoping to see is going to be a green success button. Now, for our example today, just to kind of show you what questions could be asked if it doesn't work, or even if it's transferred over, just to give you an idea. For this example, it's going to be, sorry, the data retrieval couldn't be retrieved. And occasionally there will be some families where that will be the case, and you'll have to manually put in the information. What information? We'll show you in just a bit when we get into that financial aid section. Even if it says sorry on this or it says successful, which I think the majority of you, it will be successful in doing. More and more people than ever now are able to import their IRS information into this form, making it even easier to fill out. But even if you've got to manually put it in, you'll see in just a bit here when we get to that, it gives you the line numbers to go off of. We're going to hit continue now. And next, we're going to get into the personal circumstance situations for the student. With these, just letting you know, these are going to be some questions determining whether or not the student is dependent or independent from needing to use parent information. First of all, it's going to ask about the student's marital status. Majority of your students that you're filling out, they're going to be single and never married on here. We'll click on that and then hit continue. Then about their college or career plans, what they're going to be next year. I'm assuming the majority of you are high school senior families and filling this out for the first time, but some of you could be returning students and just want a refresher on it and filling it out. And so if they are a different year, you put that down. But if you're a high school senior, even if you've got some college credit that you've done while in high school, still put down first year freshman, that button. And then down below, it's asking you if you've already have your first bachelor's degree. Majority, that's going to be no. You click on the no and then hit continue. Now we're getting into the personal circumstance questions. And reading through these questions that are on here, the majority of high school seniors are going to actually have none of these that apply, because they are asking if the student is currently on active duty in the armed forces, or if they're a veteran, if the student has children that live with them that they support, at any time since the student turned 13, if they were an orphan or a ward of the court or in foster care, if they were a legally emancipated minor, or in a legal guardianship with someone other than a step parent or a parent determined by a court in their state of legal residence. Now, if any student can actually click on one of these boxes and they are that, that's actually going to make them an independent student, and they would not need parent information on the form. If it's because they're in a legal guardianship or going back, or they were in, a ward of the court or in foster care after the age of 13, the colleges that they list on the FAFSA form to get the results will ask for that documentation later, and you won't need it right away when filling it out again, but they will ask for that documentation later. So we would encourage, the students or, people that are helping them to gather those documents and get them ready for when the colleges do ask for it. But again, by clicking on any of these, it would make a student independent and not need parent information on the form. The majority, though, again, of high school seniors and that go right into college, usually all of your undergraduate work, you're not going to be any of these things. And then you're still going to be considered dependent and need parent information on the form. Now, actually, there is one more personal circumstance question that determines whether a student is dependent or independent. Excuse me, and that is the homeless question. On or after July 1 of 2025, was a student unaccompanied, either homeless or self-supporting, and at risk of being homeless? If that would be yes, they would be independent. It will ask them who designated them that, for example, like a homeless school liaison, and then it's only the student, they'll be independent, only the student information would be needed. But for our example today, and I think for the majority of you, this is going to be no as well. We'll click on that and hit continue. Now, there is a question about unusual circumstances. Do unusual circumstances prevent student from contacting parents, or would contacting them pose a risk? And they give some examples, like left home due to an abusive environment, or abandoned or estranged by parents, victim of human trafficking, parents are incarcerated, and contacting them would pose a risk. These are just some of the examples. So they do have to be these unusual, kind of extreme examples. If that would be the case and a student answers yes, they can actually complete this form as kind of a conditional independent student, but they are going to be contacted by the college or colleges that they list down and need to explain that situation to them, and any documentation that is needed from the colleges would direct them towards that. For our purposes today, though, we're going to click on no for this. There's no unusual circumstances and hit continue. And then the last question is, are the parents refusing to provide information on the FAFSA form? Now, this is an option if the parents are unwilling to provide. If a student selects yes, there will be something that comes up that would appear to warn them about missing information. They're missing potential federal student aid that could be available to them. What I would just say to any parents that is not wanting to provide their information, I would encourage them, please do. Your information is going to be taken into account, but technically it does not hold you to have to give anything um, to the student's education at all. It will only help them in seeing what they can get as far as federal or state aid. So our example here, we're going to click no, parents are not refusing, and hit continue. And now we're going to get into the student demographic information. When we hit continue here, it's going to ask for the student sex, male or female. Hit continue, what their race or ethnicity is. They will click on that. After that, it'll ask them about their citizenship status. If they're U.S. citizens, they'll click on that and hit continue. Now here I did want to mention that students that are eligible non-citizens, for example, these would be students that would be here on a conditional or permanent green card, having an alien registration number, or on the green card, it'll say a USCIS 9-digit number. If they're an eligible non-citizen, they would click on that and enter in that 9-digit USCIS number. Now, students that are neither U.S. citizens or eligible non-citizens, examples of this would be students that are over here on a student visa or visitor visa, most of the visas, students that are under the DACA program or just having a social security number for work purposes only. They would not be U.S. citizens or eligible non-citizens. And we don't know of any colleges in Iowa that really wants FAFSA results for students that are neither a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen. Those that are not a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen are not eligible for federal aid or state of Iowa aid. So we wouldn't encourage them to fill out a FAFSA form if that is the case. I do like to mention that as long as a student is a U.S. citizen, if they're or an eligible non-citizen, they are eligible for federal or state of Iowa aid after they go through, or can be eligible for federal or state of Iowa aid, and should fill out a FAFSA form, even if their parents are not. If the student is, whatever they would qualify federal or state aid, they would be eligible for that. So anybody has any questions on that, please put that in the chat box. But that's what I at least wanted to mention with that slide on here. For our purposes, we're going to put down U.S. citizen and national for Alex here, and then hit continue. It's going to ask about the parent's educational status, whether neither parent attended, one or both attended, but neither parent completed college, or one or both parents completed college. You can, if the student doesn't know and they're trying to fill out their part, you can put don't know down on there, but we would encourage the students to try to find that out and putting down one of the top three, whatever that is, before hitting continue. Once they answer it and hit continue, there's a question about whether a student's parent or guardian was killed in the line of duty, either serving on active duty as a member of the U.S. Armed Forces on or after the events of 9/11, or performing official duties as a public safety officer. So for our purposes here today, we're going to put no down, but that is a question that you're going to see. When we hit continue, students' high school completion status, giving them the options on there. The student is getting their high school diploma and they click on that and hit continue, it's going to make you do a search for that high school. And then once you do find it and able to click on it, it will just want you to confirm one more time that that is the high school that you graduated from. If that is actually correct and you don't need to edit it, then we're going to hit continue from there. Next, now we're going to get into students' financial information. And so when we click on continue here, you remember that actually for Alex's FAFSA form here, it was not successful in retrieving the IRS data retrieval. So they are going to ask this question, did or will the student file a 2024 IRS tax return? And by answering yes, we're actually going to go manually through and entering in this information. Now, for many of you families, your students, probably high school seniors, did not file taxes in 2024. Some will have, and hopefully it'll transfer over. We won't have to go through what we're about ready to take a look at right now. But if your student did not file taxes, you still have to hit that approval in the very beginning. If it says successful, that just means that it was successful, that they tried to track it down, but nothing was there. So then they're going to ask the question the same as this, if that was the case, if the student didn't file, whether or not they did or will file. If they didn't, you would just put no down there. And then it usually asks a question about whether or not there was any foreign income earned. And if that is no, then you'll be able to move on and hit continue. So just wanted to point that out, that some of you might see this question even after it being successful. That's because chances are the student didn't file taxes, and you'll put no that they didn't, and you'll be able to move on real easily. But again, for our purposes here, just to kind of show you what is collected, we're going to say yes, that the student did. And now it's going to ask manual information off of their 2024 taxes, off of their 1040 that they have, their filing status, which is going to be at the very top of that. For the student, that's going to be single. Their income earned from working, which on their 1040, if you see down below there, it gives the line numbers to go off of. For W-2 information, if they're a W-2 earner, that's going to be on line 1Z. A lot of times this isn't for students, more for parents, and we'll kind of show this same thing when we go through the parent part. But if they've got a Schedule 1, business income or farm income, that is on lines 3 or 6 that they might have to include. So in other words, it gives you the line numbers to go off of if you have them, if for some reason you have to manually put the information in. The majority of his families, things have been working well, but there has been a few families we've seen, especially in the beginning when the FAFSA first started. And personally, for me, when I was filling it out for my college student this year, I had to manually put in the information. But again, it wasn't that hard to do because it did give you the line numbers to be able to go off of. Other information that's collected, if there's any untaxed portions of IRA distributions, untaxed portion of pensions, and again, it gives the line numbers. Majority of you probably are not going to have any of that right now, but if you did, again, it gives you the line numbers to go off of. Your adjusted gross income on line 1040, or excuse me, on the 1040 on line 11, where you would find that. The income tax paid on line 24 of your 1040. That's the second page of your 1040. If you received an earned income credit at all, on line 27 of the 1040, IRA deduction, education credit. A lot of these for the students are probably are going to be zero on net profit from business. And then the last two questions that are on here, even if the student had filed taxes and their information was transferred over, these questions are going to be asked anyway. Amount of college grants or scholarships or AmeriCorps benefits that were reported as income on the IRS. Almost all high school seniors are not going to have any of this, and it's going to be zero, but it is a question that's going to be asked. And then foreign earned income exclusion. It's actually on the Schedule 1 on line 8D of the taxes, if anybody would have it, but they still do ask it. They still do ask it even if the taxes are brought over and transferred over. This is a question that does come up, and the majority of students and parents, when it's asking for, that is usually zero. Once you have all the tax information in here that is entered in, then we're going to go ahead again, and we're going to click continue. And now it's going to get into the student's assets. The three questions for assets. First one, current total cash savings and checking. So the combined amounts of that on what they have currently. Next, net worth of current investments that is on there. You would not include retirement accounts listed on there if any student would have it. I'm actually going to go over assets a little bit more in depth once we get to the parent section. And then current net worth of business and or investment farm as well. The majority of students usually are only going to have something in their checking and savings to include, and that's what we've done here for Alex as our example. Once all of this is entered in, then we click continue again. And now we're going to come to what colleges and universities that a student wants to have their FAFSA results sent to. Now, up to 20 colleges is what can be listed. And you can either search by the state and the name of the school, or if you happen to know what the federal school code is for the colleges, you can put that down on there as well. But up to 20 colleges and universities is what a student could list to do. Once you do find them as you're searching, then make sure you go ahead and make a selection on there. Once you've got them all selected that you want, it will list them out. And if all of a sudden there is one that you forgot to do, it will ask, you can go down and select and search for more schools. One thing that I wanted to make sure to mention on this slide because we get a lot of questions on this, is can we add schools later? And the answer would be actually yes. If you're listing like what Alex has done here, 4 schools, but after you submit the form, there are another school or 2 or however many, up to 20 total being able to be listed that you want to add later, you would be able to add schools later. You'll just need to wait until the FAFSA after you submit it in is processed. And that usually takes 3 to 5 days. So after 3 to 5 days, let's even say a week, you should be able to add schools from there if you would need to. Once we've got all the schools listed and we click continue, now we're going to invite the parent as a contributor. The parent and usually the parent that has the FSC ID on there that is needed, we're going to invite that parent as the contributor. So when we click continue, what it's going to ask for is the parent email address. When we enter that email address and click send invite, then it's going to just one more time want to verify, okay, you want to send an invite to this email address. And if that is correct, then go ahead and click the button again on that second slide where, yes, send invite. And what's going to be sent to them is going to be an email that is going to have the invite sent to them saying, for example, here, student Alex Tran has sent you an invite to be a parent contributor on there. And that is going to include an invite code that is listed. And you see that code down below. This is new this year, these invite codes. And quite honestly, they've been a major blessing in helping us in the invites and making it easier compared to the last couple of years to the way the parent invites were done. So this invite code will be something that the parent needs. I know when we're sitting down with families together and filling it out, I usually write the code down just to have it. And then after we're done with the student here in just a second, we log in with the parent information and we'll enter in the code right away. I will show you that again here in just the next couple of slides. After we've got the invite done, we will move on. And now it's the review form. You can get into any part of this before we sign the form. It will allow the student to review and open up their personal identifiers, circumstances, demographics, financials, any of the colleges again. It shows one more time where the invite was sent and what the invite code is down below here. But if everything looks good, we're going to hit continue and we're going to sign and complete the student section on here. Now, as you will see down below here, it does go through some things that the student is saying that they will use the federal and or student aid to only pay for the cost of an attending institution of higher ed. They're not in default in student loans, don't owe any money back on federal student grants. They'll notify the school if they're on default on any loans and not receive federal Pell Grant for more than one school. So basically, at the very end of that, there is other language as well that is included. You can read all that. I'm not going to read through it, the whole thing with you today. But if everything looks good, you'll click on the box. I, student's name, agree to the terms outlined above, and then click the sign. And you'll notice it only says sign because Alex is just the first contributor on the form. There are other contributors that still need to contribute on there. So it's not a sign and submit. It's only a sign right now. When he signs it, it's going to say pending submission, check with your contributor, the parent contributors, but this is showing that Alex's part as the student is done. So his part is complete. Now, once the student part in section is done, and it'll give a little more information that is on there about what to kind of do next, but really the main thing is they need their contributor to complete their information as well. So what we like to do then is log out of the student account and then log in with the parent account and enter in the invite code and get it connected to do the parent contributor part for the student. Now this slide on here does show the parent email. You're going to see that once you get this email as the parent, if you want to, you can click the accept the invitation. What that's going to do is actually take you to the studentaid.gov account to be able to log in with your account as well. And then it is going to ask you to put in that invite code too. So really accepting the invitation would be the same as logging out of the student's account and then trying to log back in right away with the parent account and putting in this invite code. And specifically, I will show you that here in just a second. So now the parent login. Once we logged out with Alex's account, we need to log in with the parent, their email, phone, or username. And then after that, putting in their password. They will get also two-step verification and have a text or an email, a 6-digit code sent to them that they'll enter in. But once they come to the FAFSA homepage, there will be a place to where on the 2627 FAFSA, where it will say accept an invite code on the 20, and only the 2627 form is actually doing it. It's the first year where this invite is done. With that code, you put in the code and click submit. It will say, by accepting this invitation from Alex T's FAFSA, or the student's name, first name and first letter of their last name, you agree to share your information. You click on accept, and now it's going to go through with you on your part as the parent of, in your student's name. In this case here, the parent of Alex Tran now is filling out the form. You're going to see the same onboarding questions for what is the FAFSA, the contributors, what to expect, and submitting the form as well. And then it's going to get into the parent identity information, looking everything over with, name, date of birth, social security number, email, mobile phone, as well as address. And just like with the student one, if there's anything that you need to change, you actually have to go back into, as a parent, your account settings in your studentaid.gov account to make any changes with any of this information. If everything looks good and we hit continue, the first thing that you're going to do then is to provide your consent to have your taxes brought over electronically. Click on approve. And again, every contributor needs to do that on a student's FAFSA form for a student to be eligible for federal and state of Iowa aid. Once we do that, we're hoping to see a success button, but just like what we did with the student, we're actually going to say, sorry, it could not go on, just to, again, real quickly go over what you would have to do to manually put in your information. But I think the majority of you, you're actually going to have a successful green box that is going to be on there where the majority of your information will have been transferred over. Either way, we're going to hit continue and get into the parent demographic information. What is the parent's marital status as of today? For this example here, we're going to say that Alex's parents are married and hit continue. Then it's going to ask for the parent state of residence. This would be the parent whose FSA ID that we are using right now. So that parent that we're using, when is their state, when did they become a resident of? On here, the example is Tennessee. For you, that would be Iowa. If that's your date of birth as the parent, you would go ahead and put month and year of that down. But if not, otherwise, enter in the date that you moved in to the state of Iowa. After that, hit continue. Now we're going to get into parents' financial information. It's going to ask you, as parents, if you've received any of these federal benefits in 2024 or 25. I know that screen's kind of hard, but what they're asking for is about the earned income credit, which is on line 27 of your 1040. Federal housing assistance, free or reduced price lunch from school, Medicaid, refundable credit for coverage under qualified health plan, SNAP or food stamps, supplemental security income, not Social Security, but supplemental SSI security income, TAMP for WIC. If none of those apply, we'll move on. If there is any that even if a parent would click on receiving one of these for the parent or anyone in their family getting any of these benefits, then actually that's going to skip their asset questions on the form if they just click on one of them. But if none of them do apply, that very bottom button, that's what we would click on. None of these apply, and then hit continue. Since it was not successful for the parent information, it's going to ask, did or will the parents file taxes in 2024? Here we're going to put yes, and then did you file a joint return? We're going to click on yes here, and because of filing a joint return, only one of Alex's parents actually needed to get the FSA ID then. We'll hit continue. On here, it's going to ask about the family size, not only about the parent and then the parent's spouse, since they're married, and the student, Alex, on here, but then it's going to ask for the number of other children or other dependents in the household. And we'll be getting over half their support between July 1 of 2026 and June 30th of 2027. So you would put that extra number in here. On here, Alex has 2 younger brothers or sisters, so that's going to be a family size of 5. If you have any questions on maybe who you can count still in the household size on here, if you get to ask this manually, then please ask that in the chat box. For the majority of you, though, that had your taxes brought over, the question that you're actually going to see is, is your number in the family size, I should say, is your family size same as the number of individuals you claimed on your 2024 taxes? And if that's yes, if Alex's family's taxes brought over electronically and they were asked that and their family had claimed 5 on their taxes, then they would say it's not different. And actually, these family size questions would be skipped. If any of you have your taxes brought over electronically, but you do have the number of your family size is different than the number of individuals you claimed on your 24 taxes, you'll put yes down, and then you're going to be asked this family size question on here. So you put the right number of family size on there. So in other words, if your dependent number of dependents you claimed on your 24 taxes is not what your actual family size is, you will be able to make that adjustment. Now, then it's also going to ask about the number in college on there. You would on a student's FAFSA exclude any parents that were going on there, but never include the parents, but always it's going to be the student. And then any of the other children or dependents on the parents claimed in the family size would be going to college as well. So if any of you have more than one student going to college at the same time, you will put that number down here, the number it is, and each student will need to complete their own FAFSA form as well. Once we've got that number correctly and hit continue, now we're back to that manual entry of the parent 2024 tax info. If your taxes were brought over electronically, you're only going to see these last 2 questions about the amount of college grant scholarships reported to the IRS as income, and then the foreign earned income exclusion. And majority of you, that's going to be 0. I mean, 99.9% of you, that's going to be 0 on those for those 2 questions. But again, we just wanted to show, just in case, if for some reason you had to manually put it in, again, you're going to put in the filing status, but money earned from working, getting it off the line numbers on the 1040 and the Schedule 1 if you have one on there, any tax exempt interest, education credits, net profit from loss of business, and I think what's not showing on there also adjusted gross income, as well as income tax paid would be included too. Some of the same things, again, what we looked at, the same thing that we looked at on the student side. Now, as parents, you're going to be asked these asset questions on here. Not only the 3 asset questions, just like what the students were, but there is also an annual child support received question too. If you receive any child support, what they're asking for is the amount of child support that the parent received for the last complete calendar year. So the last complete calendar year, if you're filling it out right now in November or December still, they would be looking at 2024. For families that would be filling this out in January or February of 2026, 2025 would be the last complete calendar year. And you would put that down for all children that you received the child support for. If it is 0, just like our example that we're showing here, then you would not include, then obviously just put 0 down for that question. Now we're going to get into the parents' assets, their current balance, cash, savings, and checking. That's fairly self-explanatory. So what the parents have for that. But then also questions about their current net worth of investments and current and business and farm value questions too. Let me dive a little bit deeper into that. For business and farms, you would include the net worth of the businesses or farms that you have, fair market value of land, building, machineries, equipment, inventory, net worth minus any debt still against that land, building, machineries, equipment, what you would have on there. Now for this year, again, the last couple years, the exemptions for business and farms went away. The exemptions now are back. If any of you are small business owners, family businesses that have less than 100 full-time employees, you do not have to count those businesses down as an asset. For those of you that are family farmers that live on and operate the family farm, you would not have to count that as a farm value on the form. Now, if you have a farmland that you do not operate yourself, that is going to be considered an investment, and they're looking for the net worth of that value minus debt. For those of you that, okay, how do I find the value of that? I know a lot of times the way we help families is by looking up what depending on the county that you live in, what the average per acre price of farmland is, depending on how many acres that you have, asking if there's any debt still against it to subtract it off, and that's where we get the net worth of that value for the farmland. So if you have any questions on the business or farms, please ask that in the chat box as well. But I wanted to at least give a basis for those questions on there with the business and farms. Now, as far as the investment question, these are investments that you would include, not the home that you live in, but any other real estate, like a rental property or a second home. And what they're looking for is net worth, value minus debt, trust funds, money market funds, mutual funds, CDs. UGMA and UTMA accounts are included. If a student has an UGMA or UTMA account, they're actually the account owner on that. It would be on their side that they would include it. But stocks, bonds, I did want to specifically mention about 529 plans. 529 plans are an investment that is going to be included. But where it is included would actually be on the parent side if the parent is the account owner for the student. And as a parent, you only include the 529 plan where you're the account owner for the student that you're filling the FAFSA form out for. That actually was a change a couple of years ago when filling this part out. So if a student with 529 plans are generally, they're the beneficiary. Parents, if you're the one saving for them, you're the account owner, so you count that on your side. If there is a grandparent, for example, that is got a 529 plan for a student, they're the account owner, and there's nowhere here on the FAFSA form we have to count any of grandparents' assets. So that would be something that actually would not be included as investment on that form. Again, if you have any investment questions, please feel free to ask that in the chat box. But I did want to mention about the investments you will not count for that question. And the two big ones are your principal residence, the home that you live in, and then also retirement accounts. Retirement accounts and the home that you live in are not going to be looked at as investments on the form. And for many, not all, but many Iowa families, that is their two major investments. And so you might not have anything else besides that. And if that's the case, you would put 0 down then for the investment value for that question. Again, if you have any of the investment questions, please let us know in the chat box. Now, after you complete the asset questions, what they're going to ask for the other parent this year is actually just their date of birth. They're trying to find out, they already know the parent that has the FSA ID that initially signed in when their date of birth was. They want to know now the parent spouse date of birth. Calculations within determining what they feel you could contribute as a family while you're filling out this form. Some of that calculation is based on the age of the older parent in the family. So that's why they're asking for the spouse's date of birth on there. But for this year, that's all they're asking compared to in previous years where they wanted to know name, date of birth, and name, social security number, as well as date of birth. This year, it's only date of birth that they're asking for. Once you put that in and hit continue, now you're at the very end where you can check your information as parents. We're almost there to be able to sign and submit the form. So double checking anything that you want to, especially in the financial aid section. If everything looks good, you will hit continue. And now you're going to sign. And it does say, since in this example, this is the last contributor on the form, since the student already did theirs and we only needed to have one parent because they filed joint taxes, get the FSA ID, they're going to be the last contributor. So this parent's name, Alicia, she's going to click on and agree to the terms and then hit sign and submit. And when that is the case, then what's going to come up is a confirmation page saying, congratulations, Alex's FAFSA is complete. Now, when the parent completes the form, this congratulations that comes up, it's not going to show as much as what's actually emailed to the student. Alex, in this case, would get an email to his email that he's got his FSA ID under, and it would be a confirmation page that he can keep for himself, but it's going to explain a little bit more information, giving him an idea of what we call their SAI is, student aid index, the amount of money that they feel the family could contribute towards a student's education, and give a little bit of an idea too on what kind of aid that he may qualify for federally. It will always be the colleges themselves that eventually come up with financial aid offers listing everything you qualify for, but that confirmation page can give some ideas to it. And again, that's going to go to the student email, not the parent email when we complete it the way we did here. Now, just to let you know, I'm going to kind of just go through a last few things with you on what to expect after the FAFSA form. So this is kind of a last call for any questions that you might have with the FAFSA form on there as I take a few minutes and going through with you that. So please, any questions that you have, get them in. But I did want to mention kind of what to expect next. Within a within 3 to 5 days after you submit in the FAFSA form, all the contributors are in, the student's going to be notified that their FAFSA submission summary is available. And they can log back into their studentaid.gov account. And that FAFSA submission summary is really just a summary of everything you've included on the form. And what the student can do is they can go through the different overview of that, just double checking their information and making sure everything looks good. The form questions, the school information, also letting you know a little bit about what next steps to take as well. That FAFSA submission summary will give you an estimated information if for Pell Grant or federal direct loans available. Work study may be eligible, but just giving you a general guideline on what may be offered. Now, at the same time you're receiving this, schools will be available to download the results of the ones that you included on there, the student included on there, will be able to download these results as well. And what the schools are going to be looking at to help determine what a student's financial need is the student aid index. The student aid index, as low as it can go, could be a minus 1,500 number. But whatever that amount is, whatever that number is, the value, that's the amount really in dollars that they feel you could contribute towards a student's education. And what the colleges will use that number is take their cost of attendance and minus that student aid index to get the student's financial need at the school. And eventually then the colleges and universities will be the one to come up with a financial aid offer that will be for you. So students can look over the form answers and double check to make sure everything looks correctly on that once they get this student aid index, or excuse me, FAFSA submission summary. And so we would want you just to double check it again just to make sure. It's also going to list out the schools and some information on there that you put down, the ones that you had it sent to. So if you needed to double check to make sure, did I make sure that I got all 3 of the colleges that I wanted to? You can look and see. And if not, if you didn't include every college that you wanted to on there, this would be the time now that you would be able to add schools on since it's been processed when you get this FAFSA submission summary. So some of the next steps will be really more than likely directed by the colleges themselves. If the colleges, when they get your FAFSA results, need any other information from you, they will contact you. A lot of times now, sometimes it can be in the mail, but a lot of times it's going to be electronic. So for any students that's already applied and been accepted by a college and even have their own account now with the school because they've been accepted and maybe even a college email already, check that. Make sure you're checking and seeing with that email or any other or the email that you used with the college when you apply to the school. There could be times, and most times it's going to be directly to the student that the colleges are going to be asking for information. Even if it's more information from the parents they need, it's through the student that more than likely they're going to ask for that. So as students, be checking your emails at least once or twice a week. And if a college has sent you something, if you're not sure what it means, contact their admissions office, contact their financial aid office, and ask them what it might be. And again, share that information with your parents as well. Communicate with them and let them know if you do receive anything. Eventually, what is going to come from the colleges, kind of again, as I wrap up here, if there are any questions that you still have, please ask those. But what eventually is going to come from the colleges and universities when they have everything they need from you are going to be financial aid offers, listing what you qualify for, any federal aid, state aid, the institutional aid itself, grants, scholarships, loans, whatever it might be. And different colleges are going to send those out at different times. Some colleges here in Iowa, they might be sending out financial aid offers before Thanksgiving or before Christmas. Many schools, they will wait until February or March. And a few other ones, it might even be March or April. I think it's a good idea for any college that a student is interested in. Just ask that college and university, when can I expect to get a financial aid offer from you? Just so that you know if you were expecting one in February and now it's March and you haven't seen it, I would be asking the question, why haven't I seen it yet? The reason could be is that they are missing information from you that you needed to send into them before they could get the financial aid offer. The other thing I guess I wanted to mention too with the financial aid offers is if any of you put down colleges to get results that you haven't applied and been accepted for, that is totally reasonable. But if they get the results and you haven't been applied and been accepted yet to the college, more than likely that's going to generate a message from them saying, we got your FAFSA results, but now we need you to apply and get accepted first. Almost all colleges, before they'll send out a financial aid offer to you, they need you to have applied and been accepted as well. All right. Those were the things that I wanted to make sure to talk to you about as we went through this FAFSA step by step, and then real quickly on what to expect. I do want to thank our FAFSA step by step partners again, Department of Education, Bureau of Iowa College Aid, IASFA, and that is us at ICAN as well. And thank our FAFSA step by step volunteers again too, who I know have been asked a few questions here within the chat. And still, if you've got a few more last minute questions, please put them in the chat box on there. But I am also going to just mention one more time that if you would like help in doing this FAFSA form, please contact us at ICAN. That again is our web address where we have a link on there where you can set up an appointment through us, seeing what's available through Zoom or in person at one of our offices, as well as our phone number to call. Whether questions or setting up an appointment, we're more than happy to help you to do that. And hopefully this is giving you kind of an idea on what exactly you would need to complete the form. Whether it's through us or even if I know there's some FAFSA completion events that have been going on throughout the state of Iowa as well. One thing I do want to encourage you all to do, make sure to bring your 2024 tax information with you to those events or those appointments. Even if the data retrieval works, sometimes we still need to take a look at the tax information for a few questions. And so we want to make sure you have it. And if for some reason your taxes are not able to be brought over, then you have them there and we can manually put in the information for you. So even though I think the majority of you, most of your tax information will be brought over, have your taxes available and ready, student and parents, just in case for whatever reason, if the data retrieval does not work. Right. I am going to go ahead and put again, any last call for questions that is on there. Looks like there's a few more. So I'm going to leave that up just for a second to get those answered. And I'm taking a look at as well. This is a good question from Mike that I'm seeing on the chat box that I'm actually going to direct while we have some last minute questions that are on here. I think it's a good question I probably should have addressed. Somebody asked, when does a typical senior fill out the FAFSA form? I will tell you right now that it's a very, we would encourage students to try to get it done probably October, November. October 1 is the normal starting date. And this year it actually even a week before October 1, they actually opened it up. The last couple of years it had been delayed, but October 1 and going forward is going to be the starting date for the next school year. And so we would encourage most students to try to get it done in October and November, but different colleges will have different priority dates that are out there. And when you would want to get it in for sure would be the earliest priority date of whatever colleges and universities that a student is looking at. If they're looking at 3 different schools and one college has a January 15th priority date and another one has a March 1 priority date, but the third one says December 1st, December 1 is when you want to get it in by, because it's first come, first serve for a lot of the campus-based or institutional money. And because of that money, institutional money, because of that, we want to make sure the student gets the most aid coming to them. So the best way to ensure that a student gets the most financial aid coming to them, beat the priority date or dates of any colleges and universities that you're looking at. Great question, and one honestly I should address early on because it is one that we do in a normal financial aid evening, especially for junior families when we do it at a lot of schools and getting ready for the next year. All right. Still seeing a few questions that are coming on. If any of you need to leave, please feel free to go ahead and do that. But we're going to try to answer a few more questions within the chat box before I close down the webinar. I'm just going over some of them right now. It looks like there was some great questions that were asked. And again, I really appreciate our volunteers that jumped on tonight and asked those as I went through the process. And I appreciate the comments for our volunteers in the evening and thanking them for that. Appreciate that. Thank you very much for attending. Right. I am not seeing any other questions right now, so I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. But if anybody did not get their questions in, or if you're watching this as a recording, you can see our phone number and website there at ICAN, or contact your colleges and universities that your students are interested in as well. So thank you again, everyone. Appreciate it. Good luck in filling this out. And if you have questions, you know who to contact. We're more than happy to help you. Thank you.